Praise be to Jesus. Well, hello again, everyone. I hope and I'm pretty sure this is my last post for today, Monday. Um, I was just listening to a message on one of the channels that I listen to on YouTube, and it's from a woman who I've been following for really quite some time. And whether or not she was ever Catholic or not, I'm not really sure. But she has a lot of Catholic in her, and I know she was involved with the Franciscans. Both her and her husband were for a while, but then became disillusioned with the institution of the Catholic Church and the hierarchy, and left the church and didn't really join any other church. In other words, a Protestant church or evangelical or anything. Um, she just her and her husband just studied the Bible, loved Jesus, tried to be obedient, um, did a lot of works of mercy, and Jesus eventually began speaking with her. And I'm convinced that this woman, Jesus is definitely speaking to her. He uses her mainly to as a window for us to look at ourselves and our own sins. And she talks about her sins and when she falls, and Jesus gives her pointers on, how to strengthen yourself, and also how the enemy is acting in her life. And through that, we can, gather information and understanding about how the enemy is acting in our lives. Um, but Jesus has started something different here. What he's having her do is to explain to, I think she has like 23,000 subscribers, explain to them what the early church was about. All right. So she started off with Jesus began explaining to her about um, his mother, Mary, and her relationship to the early church, and um, her position in heaven. And of course, these are the Marian dogmas. And so Jesus, explained to her what this was about. Then in the next video, he began explaining that a consecrated host um, in the Catholic Church is actually his body. And, I mean, some people are having a hard time on the channel and are leaving the channel. Others are accepting the teaching. And, you remind you of that time in the Bible when it says that in the gospel where people were saying this is really a hard teaching, and people started walking away. Well, that's what's happening, with people on this particular channel. Some people are walking away, um, but so other people are accepting this. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put up about a 6-minute segment of Jesus speaking to her. Um, and this, I'm putting this up because it has relevance to what's going on in our church right now. Jesus is going to talk to us about what the early church was like. He's going to go back and he's going to explain some things. So, I hope you get something out of this. You know, if you truly believe Jesus is really talking with her, and even if you don't believe it, it's hard to argue with what he's saying here. So I'm going to stop talking here, and here comes the clip right now.
I let you down. I have been faithful to my word, but I cannot water down my truth. I must stand on what I have said and what is written to bring the fullness of faith to you. And I am asking you to be patient with Claire, who has cried many tears that you would understand and be open to what I'm bringing to you. From the very beginning, she wanted to share these things with you, but I was not ready, and she had to wait, which has been very painful for her, because she wanted you to have everything you needed to grow into the fullness of your callings. So now here we stand on this great journey. I have broken the ice and torn the veil. I am showing you the mysteries of your faith. But I ask you to purify your hearts and let no vestiges of religious spirits lodge there, causing you to reject what is written in my word. The enemy will attempt to do with you what he did with Martin Luther and drive you away. But I have prayed for you that your sight would be clear and anointed, that you would discern truth from lies, that you would be courageous and fend off naysayers around you. The world thrives on gossip and lies, so I have asked you to avoid worldly news. There is a certain pleasure derived from finding fault with others. It feeds something inside that is seeking to feel more secure in life, stronger and better than others. But I have taught you that is poison, and unfortunately my church has been loaded with poison that has obscured much of the good given her. So now you have a choice. Allow the poison to linger in your minds, or reject it and go back to the very beginning, when the faith was pure and martyrs were common, when people renounced wealth and power belonged to me, when my apostles met in modest circumstances and believers flourished in home groups. None of my apostles were learned men except for the one who betrayed me. That should tell you something about those I saw fit and qualified to follow me and carry the faith forward. The men I anointed to lead and chose to be ministers and overseers did not receive extensive training and seminary educations. None of that was necessary because the faith was simple. Simple enough that a fisherman had no trouble understanding its depths. Man is the one who took it upon himself to require education and degrees before one could be ordained. But I trained my apostles in lessons of love, purity, forgiveness, simplicity, to be foot washers, not prelates sitting on a throne being waited on. The requirements I had for ordination were very, very simple. Love me with all your heart, your strength and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Be willing to give up all for me. Be willing to die for me. Be willing to go without for me. And handle the ewes and lambs with great tenderness and reverence, for in truth I live inside of them, and you are touching my very own body. I taught you to beware of marks of honor, long flowing robes, and elaborate vestments that was the norm of the day for religious leaders. I taught you by my life, from birth in a manger to death on a cross, to be stripped of all earthly significance in order to care for the flock. This is what I intended my priests to be, not worldly lettered men driven by greed and power. This is where we are going if you are willing to come with me. There is no glory in it whatsoever, nor do I ever wish for it to be that way again. So you see, many of you, both men and women, are well qualified to feed the sheep, tend the ewes and lambs, and set the example of simplicity for others to follow. If you hear my voice today, do not harden your hearts, but respond as my mother did. Be it unto me according to your will. And please do not enter into arguments with anyone who wishes to debate. Your lives are based on intimacy with me. You know my heart, my voice, and for those who wish to argue, it is fruitless and a waste of precious time. and no good can come of it. Let them dispute and criticize and dissect, but you love and follow me in simplicity, and I will make you fishers of men.